It's actually just hacking our desire for attachments, using that, leveraging that to hook onto the higher, and then watching the lower fall away. We are back with another reflection in the Daily Vedantic. Today's reflection is on one of the greatest misinterpretations about this philosophy throughout history, certainly today. And it's the greatest misinterpretation of maybe anything to do with Eastern philosophy, or in many respects, Western philosophy and spirituality. And that is the concept of renunciation. Spiritual path is usually met with these images of renunciates in caves, maybe one piece of cloth to their name, living in voluntary poverty, penniless, with a singular focus on the divine. Now, that last part might be true. It might also not be true. You could be penniless and you're just going through the motions. You could be, as Swami say, you could be a saint in the boardroom or a devil in an ashram. This philosophy and the misinterpretation around renunciation, it always requires some cleanup. Renunciation, the two big misinterpretations around renunciation are, one, that renunciation has this look and feel to it of you own nothing. It's not that you own nothing, it's that nothing owns you. You might be in the middle of a palace. In fact, King Janaka was a realized soul and an emperor. You might be in the middle of a palace with a massive kingdom, but none of it owns you. You might be in a one-bedroom apartment with a 15-year-old beat-up Civic, and all of it owns you. Renunciation, the misinterpretation, is that a path of spirituality means that you got to give up everything. And that just isn't true. You actually don't give up anything. And this is the second big misinterpretation about renunciation. Yes, you could distill nearly the entire philosophy down to renounce and enjoy. Renounce the fruit of your labor, and you will enjoy your labor. Renounce a fixation on outcomes, and you will enjoy the events that unfold. Renounce the need for X, Y, or Z to happen, and you're going to have a great day. Yes, that is true. But how does renunciation actually work? Renunciation is the effect of practice. It's not a practice. You don't renounce your possessions. You don't give up your possessions. The second massive misinterpretation around renunciation that Advaita Vedanta clears up so beautifully is that you can't give anything up. You can only take something up. The example that's often given is the 6-year-old doesn't give up their toy figurines or their dolls. They just get really excited about a bike. They get into clothes. They get into fancier toys. They didn't renounce the dolls. They just took up bigger and better desires. So you don't give up anything. You just take up something higher, and the lower falls away. And this philosophy says you don't have to make any compromises. Take up an awareness and adherence to universal laws. Understand them, and just watch how simple and almost effortless it is to navigate the universe. Take up an awareness and maybe an application of attach you lose, detach you gain. Get attached to something, that will be the force that creates the circumstance where you lose it. Detach from it. Develop some elbow room from it, and you create the vacuum that gives you that thing that you detach from. Attached to wealth, it eludes you. Attached to health, attached to any egoistic desire, you're in a state of constant discomfort. Detach, and those things come running towards you. As Rumi says, that which you are seeking is seeking you. Apply these principles in our daily lives, and they just friggin' work. Independent on any spiritual or philosophical belief, they just work. You open up the manual to put together a piece of IKEA furniture, and it just works. It helps you put it together. Similarly, this is manual for living. And this manual for living says that a life of renunciation is actually through taking up, not giving up. So you take up the higher, and the lower falls away. Take up a higher ideal of working for your company, not just yourself. Watch what happens. Take up the higher ideal of working for your customers, not just your company or yourself. See what happens. Take up the ideal of mastering a skill set, craft, profession, not just for customers or your company or yourself, but for your community at large, and see what happens. Take up a higher ideal than one you might have at eye level right now, like a ladder. Just hook on to the rung slightly above where you are right now, and you can freely let go of the one you were just on. You do it again and again, and before you know it, you're 10, 50, 100 feet up, constantly attaching to the higher, detaching from the lower, constantly taking up the higher, and the lower just effortlessly falling away. That renunciation of those lower rungs, it's not through a practice of renunciation. It's not through a practice of giving away your attachment to the lower. It's actually just applying, hacking our desire for attachments, using that, leveraging that to hook onto the higher, and then watching the lower fall away. You might do that in a spiritual, evolutionary progress for your own development internally, and you might have a mansion around you. You might have a palace, an empire of sorts that just gathers around you because, well, your community thinks you'd be a great steward of that. But all the while, it's independent of a state of renunciation, an accumulation of renunciation to the things of this world within you, all through the practice of attaching to the higher. Detachment through attachment. Crazy paradoxical concept. And it's not just one way it works, we're told. It's the only way it works. That's today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.